I usually like this kind of fare, but I can't say that I was particularly enamoured with this. Strange World, the Disney film. Have both of you seen that or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, it hardly sets the world on fire. It's basically, in very short form, it's about a family of adventurers, three generations. They're called the Clades, Clades, and they live in a close-knit community, and the father is the one who's the grand adventurer. When I say close-knit community, it's surrounded by mountains, but nobody knows what's the other side of the mountain. This and the father sort of is very gung-ho about going and exploring and finding new opportunities for this close-knit community. But his son ends up discovering a rather important natural resource that glows, and he becomes a farmer rather than an adventurer. And his father, who continues on his adventures, is lost to him and to the rest of the community. And we sort of move ahead 25 years. So initially, when father and son go out on this fact-finding mission, that the father leaves the son behind. The son discovers this glowing substance which helps the community to continue down the route that they're on. And I mean, it's a relatively straightforward arc. And then you've got the son of you've got then the grandfather, the father, and then you've got the son who himself is a teenager, and it's about the differences and the sameness between them and what brings them all together. Now, it's got very much an environmental message, and by the way, it's got an inventive twist, which is great. But I mean, whilst I understand and I applaud the film's environmental proclivities, I just thought the film had a number of flat patches, and notwithstanding the surprise that I referenced, which was that inventive twist, I wasn't sold on the ending either, and I just thought it was strangely bland for a Disney movie. Notwithstanding all the supposed action that's taking place. I mean, they try to build it up, but I just didn't particularly warm to it. Did you, Peter, or not?
I actually really liked it. It's an original Disney animation.
The second time you're wrong today, it's good.
Thank you, Alex. It's an attempt by Disney to do something different, something original, to look at generations of men in families that have expectations attached to them, and, of course, the environmental theme that you mentioned. I think it actually is quite clever in many respects and has a very good storyline.
How is it clever?
Clever because of the inventive way it deals with the story, with the exploration, with the grandfather, father, son sort of relationship, which...
So you're not talking clever because of the twist, which I think is clever, but other than that, I thought it was pretty straightforward.
No, the whole thing was quite clever because it is not a standard Disney animation, and I think that's why it's been criticised in the US and hasn't done well, because it doesn't fit a template that some people seem to think a Disney animation should be. So I really liked it. I think it was quite
interesting you say
different film.
It's interesting you say that to me, because I don't think it's got anything to do with the fact that it doesn't fit the template. I think it's got to do with the fact that it's boring.
We'll agree to disagree.
What about you, Dave? Because I mean, we'll have to discuss the elephant in the room in a moment, which is the showcasing of a gay relationship in rather than make. I mean, the people who are going to be seeing this movie are youngsters who may not have even been talked about by their parents, may not have even spoken with them about their sexuality, and this pushes it a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, I didn't mind that. My only criticism of that part of the film was that I thought the grandfather's reaction to finding out that his grandson was gay did not fit with the character. The character was so macho, and with the way he treated his own son, I didn't think that reaction was natural to how he would have reacted. The only thing I could imagine, and Disney probably didn't set this up very well in the screenplay, the only way I think the grandfather would have reacted that way would have been if being gay is common in that world that they've set up. That's the only thing I can think of that they didn't explain properly.
But what about the whole concept that you're going to get kids that are 7 and 8 and 9 years of age who haven't even been spoken about in terms of their sexuality? Is that something that we should be, should we be hitting people over the head with this, or should it be a bit more subtle?
I don't think they're hitting anyone over the head with it, in the sense that you've just got a gay character there. Like, it's not something...
I think it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great that we're introducing greater diversity, that there's gay characters. I think that's absolutely fine. I just don't know whether the way they did this... What did you think, Peter, of that subject matter?
I thought it was fine. I think we've seen a few other animations from Disney and a few others elsewhere that have been diverse and have also dealt with subtly gay characters. Yes.
I'm all for diversity. I'm talking about at an appropriate age.
Well, this is not a film for very young children. It is rated PG, and it is for somewhat older children that will be able to understand the complex issues that are developed in the narrative and the storyline. So I did not mind that at all.
I'll throw a real life situation to you, and my son's older now, but this is what happened a number of years ago, and it's kind of an interesting one, because from my point of view, the moment we don't talk about gayness, the moment we don't talk about diversity, is when we know that there genuinely is diversity and there genuinely isn't a focus on this subject matter, and I long for that sort of time, because I think that's highly desirable. I'll go back a number of years, and my son was still at school, and they had an excursion, and my son came to me quite distressed. Real life situation. I wonder what you guys would have done. Okay, so. And I know neither of you are parents, so this is more a judgment call, but I'm curious. So he basically said, "Dad, we've been asked to go to meet a group of people in a gay environment, and I don't feel comfortable going. I'm happy." He wasn't 7 or 8 or 9. He was probably about 14 or 15, and he did not want to go. And I was, placed into a rather awkward position, because this was a school excursion. Now, one of the ways that you can learn about what you're not is to go along and speak to people and hear from them and so on. So I was torn in terms of what advice I should be giving my son. What do you think about that sort of thing, where you're forced into an environment based on a school excursion that may be outside your comfort level?
I think you have to put this into context, because you don't know what school has done to prepare the students for whatever excursion or visit that they were going to make, how much research or background was made, how much discussion happened in the classroom. I mean, this is a whole contextual situation that needs to be explored further. And I must say, if your son was 14 or 15, I'm a little surprised at his somewhat negative reaction. If he was 8 or 9, okay. 14 or 15, surely he's experienced a bit of the world by now.
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree with that. Interesting. What about you, Dave?
Oh, look, I think I agree with Peter. It's one of those situations where you need to sit down and talk about it. I mean, we saw cases at our high school when we were doing Australians at War, where some of the students didn't want to go to different museums around Melbourne because it was going to bring back memories that their grandparents and their parents went through. So I think it's one of those times when you need to... Well, in a
situation like that, I feel that they should not have to go.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I mean. You should never make a child feel uncomfortable, but I think also at the same time it's important for children and to learn as well, and sometimes that does mean going outside your comfort zone.
What did you think of Strange World as a movie, Dave?
Look, my biggest issue with this film was that it was very similar to Planet 51 and also Journey to the Center of the Earth. I found that it borrowed heavily from both of those films. I did like the twist in the film, but I thought the real weakness with this film was it was one of those films where I felt like for a majority of the plot line. I'd seen it all before. I guessed where the film was going to end up. I didn't pick the big twist, I'll admit that, but I did pick most of the way through what was going to happen next, just because we've seen it so often. So I think it's an important film for Disney to have made, but at the same time, it deserved better because it was such a bland plot that we've seen before.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What about the ending? I just didn't do it for me. I mean, it was all about technology, and then it wasn't about technology kind of thing, and then they had to find another way, and whatever. I just didn't. I thought that was a bit unusual.
Yeah, it did feel like there was a little bit of preaching there by the screenwriter-director, basically saying that perhaps as a world we need to go back to more simpler times, which, yeah, that you can do that, but I think you need to be careful to make sure that you do it in such a way that it works. But I think the really telling sign with this film was we all saw it in an environment where there was kids, and kids lost interest in this film very, very early on. They were running around, throwing popcorn. That's, as someone who's not a parent, that's one of my telling signs. When I see a kids film with kids around, is does it hold the interest of the kids? And this film certainly did not.
Score out of 10, Dave?
I'm giving it 4 out of 10.
Yeah, so it's a fail. I'm giving it a 5, which is a bare pass. Peter, the generous one?
Yes, the generous one. There's much to admire in Strange World. I liked it. It's not for very young kids, I agree, and it's 7 out of 10 from me.
Oh, my God. I think you've said it all. There's much to admire in A Strange World. I think there's much to admire in Peter's world. Is that what we're saying, Peter?
We'll have to explore it further.
yes, exactly. No, it's yes. I found it rather fascinating, the last couple of movies in terms of your views. And that's the reason we have you on, because you are obtuse. Is that a descriptor? Is it an appropriate descriptor?
Well, it's interesting to be described as a triangle with an obtuse angle, but I like being that.
I didn't say isosceles. All right, now talking of that, we've got limited time, so I'm going to